actually looking to lift the trophy in person this time. Really nice touch that he was able to bring it out after his victory online in 2021, but he wants to show that he can actually walk up and proudly lift that trophy. For Serral, this IEM has been denied from him over and over again, even when it looked like the stars aligned and that he had a sure path to victory in 2020. That's when Zest had the Adept Princer. That's when he was caught by surprise. Now it's all come down to the finals. Serral finally here, where actually it feels like he just continues to power up. Serral in finals, pretty good. He's pretty good, Zerg. Now we start on Pride of Alteris for all things, almost like getting kind of the weird map out of the way, because this does lead to very weird games. Case in point, Reynor with the gold.
Already heading into a classic dynamic between these two. Serral a little more conservative, goes for the standard expansion. Reynor straight away hatchery first on the gold base. The gold base, of course, gives you plus about 40% mining on those mineral patches, but normally, you get less of them. Not on this map, though, because Pride of Alteris is absolutely insane. And they've decided with this map, look, that base is so far out in the middle, it's so hard to defend. You get a full 8 gold mineral patches. It is a massive boost to the economy of Reynor. The problem is, how do you defend it? And usually players here will look to get a read on what their opponent's doing. They'll go Ling Speed, they'll get a Baneling Nest for safety and try desperately to hang on to it. Serral, though, he's making a Zergling Speed, but he's droning up for now. We haven't seen him opt for a very quick Baneling Nest. It's interesting because the Ling Speed denotes that Serral's not going to do the Roach push. He's starting some Zerglings, but if he wanted to really kill the gold, he'd already have a Baneling Nest and a massive amount of Zerglings coming out.
Yes, this is what we've seen from other ZVZs on this map. Either both Zerg players kind of acknowledge how risky it is, so one of them does try and go for an early pull and kind of nip it in the bud, right? Or we have the situation where it's like, oh, okay, really, you did that, and then you actually try and punish it as fast as possible. It's actually kind of interesting thinking about the history of StarCraft 2, where other maps actually have led to Zergs taking a gold base seemingly to be greedy, and actually they just used it as more of a reason to cut drones and be aggressive. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the plan for Reynor either. He does take a third hatch. Of course, Ling's on the way with a Baneling Nest. Everything we expect to keep you safe in a ZVZ, but Reynor obviously just getting the benefit here from the gold.
And he gets his own third hatchery up behind it. Reynor just looking to use that income boost, and Serral playing such a conservative style. He's not reacted at all. It feels like Reynor here is kind of going, what are you going to do? Are you going to rush Ling Bane? How are you going to punish this? Serral saying, I'm not going to react at all. I am just going to play a completely standard game, and I'm hoping that you're going to be the one who gets over eager and attacks into me. Maybe you make too many Banelings for defense, something like that. So far, Reynor has not really taken the bait, though. I think he's balanced his defense quite well. He's made a few Banelings. He's got an extra Queen out front, but he's also adding the Evo Chamber, the extra gases, these sort of things that are going to allow him to keep pace with Serral.
Usually one of the weaknesses of a base out here like this is that a couple of Baneling run-bys could actually be devastating. Oh, okay, speaking of which, wow, I didn't even time that on purpose. I didn't even drones go down.
Where did it come from, Zombie Bro?
No, I was actually just about to point out that the Overlords were properly placed to stop that from happening, and then...
So 2 Banelings came from up here on this high ground, this sort of angle. Serral's going to do it again. And this is just so clever. Look at that. Oh, wounded drones. In the open, he gets one of them. But a good stack there, and the Baneling does take out the other Zergling. Only one more drone going down. Serral currently up 3 workers. And these sneaky Banelings going to be continuing to branch on in from multiple angles. Both sides going for roaches. Now, the income advantage is not really there for Serral, simply because of that gold base. It's actually Reynor, who has been mining more money for a lot of this game. Serral still has work to be done.
That's the flickering blue arrow that you see means that Reynor does have the advantage even with this damage. He is forced to pull away once again. 5 more drones go down, keeping him actually at basically a 5 deficit, now up to 7. But that's going to be perhaps temporary. Serral not really on that gold base. Might eventually, right, get it to a 4th or maybe even a 5th, depending on how long this game goes. But that is for later. Right now, what we have very important to talk about is Serral getting some roaches, +1 timings, lair timings. What are they actually going to be going into next? Because apparently this gold base has actually not influenced the game as much as we were expecting.
Yeah, this is really fascinating to see, because Serral just a couple of Baneling waddles in, and Reynor with some uncharacteristic slow responses. You pointed out he had the Overlords out front to spot. He had time to react, but he didn't notice that Serral was keeping him occupied, and now Serral poking forward with just a handful of roaches, Zerglings, and Banelings. This is not a committed push. This is Serral literally just looking for good trades as he drones up behind it.
I mean, look how much Reynor had to react. He does realize, like, okay, that maybe that's not as scary as I was thinking, so he cancels one of the spine crawlers, but it must almost be like kind of a safeguard in your mind. Like, I have to kind of get one. I am still exposed here. Even though I reap the benefits of that gold base, it is still a forward base closer to my opponent. Should he decide to attack, should I be losing momentum?
There should be pressure on Serral to do something about that gold base, Zombie Grub. But there's just not. He's clearly just doing this very, very light pressure. Like, oh, I'll move a few roaches in the middle of the map. I'll do a couple of banelings running into the mineral line. It's the lightest of pressures, and yet it's getting these big reactions. So Serral here purely just playing with the expectation that Reynor knows how compromised that position is. And now Reynor has been forced to go for the attack. It's mass roaches, lings, banes, ramping forward across the map. But Serral, he's got a big arc of roaches on top of that ramp. He's got a few banelings and zerglings of his own. I don't know if Reynor can break this, but he's gonna go for it.
He's going for it. The baneling's trying to hit the heart of the roaches, but Serral with a split on that high ground, still attaining the concave as well. Reynor, he had a lair actually start a bit faster than Serral and had canceled it in order to do a bit of an attack. Now restarts it, but clearly one of the downsides here, not going to be able to start that +2 missile. Instead has to go for the carapace. Also will not have that roach speed. So actually Reynor having presence on the map is going to be increasingly more difficult, as the Serral roach is basically going to be able to outmaneuver him. Speaking of outmaneuvering, lings do get into that natural base. They don't find any drones, but that is a lot of good scouting.
Beautiful play here by Serral. It's only a handful of zerglings, and he gets a couple of drones in the main base as well. Very nice play by Serral. I would be super annoyed if I was Reynor in this position, just because you really do expect the Finnish player to try and make a bit more of a play and come forward and take the fight to you, but he's just not taking the bait. And Reynor, he can definitely come back from here. He's got roach speed on the way. He's got +1 attack. His carapace is on the way, but the +2 already almost finished for Serral. And in Roach Wars, +2 is king. Those attack upgrades are so important.
I'm not sure. This is actually getting a little bit scary for Reynor at this point. We know the supplies are currently looking even, but as far as the pacing of this game, who seems to be in more control of the game, it is going to Serral. And yes, straight up the upgrade, very important. Also able to invest into burrow and tunneling claws. So once again, having a lot more mobility, a lot more opportunity to gain that momentum. We did have the gold base taken and then not, and funnily enough, not scouted by Reynor, I believe. But Serral, even a little supply block as he pushes through here. Again, very close in the army supply. Serral, in fact, at a deficit at this point.
Yeah, Reynor's got a huge army. His tech's just a bit behind Serral. Oh, accidentally leaving some roaches in the middle of the map. The Zergling's distracting him there. Reynor going for a run around. Both players will be maxing out momentarily. Better upgrades for Serral. He should be kicking into his carapace upgrades as well. He's, of course, getting tunneling claws and burrow. He's going to want to do some of those roach burrow shenanigans. He now rebuilds the gold base after canceling it earlier. Serral kind of second-guessing himself a little bit about whether he can hold this area with those queens marching forward. That's a very wise pullback. Serral, you got to be real careful. That's a giant roach attack from Reynor.
That is a lot of roaches. Serral, though, trying to take the fight on that high ground with the concave. Also, a couple of roaches coming in from the right side, distracting those queens, taking them down, taking away the transfuses. Serral with the Ravagers, with the concave on the high ground. And of course, faster reinforcements should be able to push this back. Reynor really wanted to find Serral just a little bit unprepared for a push, but that has not happened. Serral takes a very good supply lead.
I do not need to respect or react to your gold base, barely at all, says Serral. I will simply navigate through the game with an almost completely standard game plan. A couple of baneling run-bys here and there, and guess what? Well, cherry on top of the cake's the roaches. Burrow movement speed, allowing them to regenerate exceptionally quickly. Running forward, looking for some Overlord snipes. Gets a double there. Fantastic play by Serral, who's now in the driver's seat, and he's looking to split up, attack Reynor in many areas. Reynor is down on economy. He's way down on army at this point, trailing in the upgrades. And look at this, Serral threatens on the left, pushes in on the right.
He just has more stuff, and the best way to use more stuff is to actually split your attack. Reynor is going to have to kind of hope that Serral makes a mistake, but so far so good on the Serral side of things. Realizes that he is in fact winning that left side and getting his roaches into the main, and Reynor just taps out. Serral with a very convincing game number one.
Expertly dismantling that greedy play from his opponent. Not overstepping at all, perfectly calculated start to finish. And perhaps that 3-0 verse road wasn't just a freak occurrence. I mean, he is looking so tight in his Zerg versus Zerg.
That was supposed to be so much more complicated for Serral. There is supposed to be a lot of doubt in his mind. What exactly is that gold base giving my opponent? What exactly is he going to be using it for? But the calm and collected play, plus those few Baneling run-bys, right? If we're talking about a game where Reynor had taken absolutely 0 drone damage, then there is a much bigger boost to his economy as it was. It was ahead for a while, but not nearly as much as it could have been.
And Serral there just playing with his opponent's head. Usually, historically, I think of periods where Reynor was the one who always seemed to have the mental edge, making comebacks he shouldn't have made happen, really playing with Serral's mind. But the way those units kept posturing forwards from Serral, Reynor got a little flustered. You called it. He was dropping spine crawlers, then canceling them, then building them again, getting stuck on layer tech, massing up the roaches for an attack that he kept thinking was about to come, and it never did. In the end, Reynor felt forced to attack up a ramp, and we saw what happened there. A fantastic Game 1 victory on one of the more dynamic and wild maps out there.
And now we go into something a little bit cooler, but oh, look at this. Let's get the introductions done already. In the top left, taking game number 1. Now going for a 12 pool, he is the Red Zerg, Serral.
And his opponent in the bottom right side of the map. Hailing from Italy, it's your reigning world champion. This is Reynor. Hyper-focused there after a Game 1 defeat is Reynor. And if you're a fan of his, you really are not happy to see that hatchery. This is Berlingrad. You can mine open a mineral path to make the rush distance shorter in the middle of the map. And you can get over there very, very quickly just by mining out. Those are only 5 minerals. 1 trip from a worker and it's gone. And there's already 6 Zerglings on the way. A lot of players open up spawning pool first on this map. You see it all the time because the 12 pool is so darn scary. Reynor has not shown it that respect, and Serral's going to be getting in his face.
This is very concerning, especially watching the camera, to be honest. Reynor usually, even after a loss, bopping around on his music, actually lifted a finger and kind of looked pensive for a second there. He's like, what's going to happen here? Well, guess what? Serral is going to cheese the heck out of you. The drones have been pulled. Serral is looking to continue the momentum.
Serral showed fantastic defense against this same build earlier in this tournament when he faced Dark. This time around, though, it's Reynor on the defense, Serral on the offense. 5 drones pulled to the front. He wants to delay the spine crawlers building here and try to take out one of these drones if he can. Look at that. Nice blocking for now. Serral does get 1, 2, 3 spine crawlers trying to start up there, but they are delayed about 7 seconds.
The drones are stacking up, trying to mitigate any damage, actually trying to force Serral into a bad fight, to be honest. The drones at this point, actually very much higher in number for Reynor, can be a bit of a fighting force, but absolutely, they are just meant to buy some time. The Lings are on the way for Reynor, and he is getting a queen, but the spine crawlers, they're already halfway done. Reynor tries to time this out perfectly. Lings have popped, drones have been pulled, going after that first spine crawler. However, on the left side, the actual attack with the drones might not be going as well as Reynor was hoping.
Oh, the Zerglings of Serral are actually tearing it up, but he cancels a spine crawler to get the minerals back as well. 1 spine finishes, and it does so much damage there, picking off a bunch of the drones and Zerglings. And look at that, the spine crawler going to move to the natural. He's going to go down there and force the fight. Reynor comes up the ramp to fight him. Serral, right now, it's 7 drones versus 6.
Oh, he got it! Oh my gosh, he got the surround. He stopped the plan for the spine crawler, and Serral's drones now on the run. 15 drones have been killed, but look at Serral's economy as well, right? And Reynor still has 2 hatcheries. Does he actually have anything more than these drones? Maybe not too much, but a queen is so sturdy at this point. What is she really going to die to? Not that spine crawler, still trapped by the drone. Citizen arrest on a structure. You don't see that too often.
Oh, the Zerglings are still rallying in. There are still 3 drones mining at home for Serral, which means he's got production. Reynor has used up his bank. His last Zerglings have just popped out. The queen, as you said, she's very tanky. She's got range damage as well. The drones and the Zerglings pulled to fight, transfusing on the Zerglings for Reynor, trying to hold on strong, but his line's crumbling. The queen, she's trying to get out of there. She gets surrounded. Serral takes down the queen, and there's only 1 drone left for Reynor. He's down on Zerglings as well. Serral closes in.
Oh my, the GG is called. That was so down to the wire. That was unbelievable. And Serral looking cool as a cucumber. No big deal, guys. That was totally fun. I had that one. I don't know about that. But Reynor now finds himself down 2 games to none.
Oh, perfect way to play it out there. One game, defensive, solid as a rock. Game 2, bring out the cheese, rush your opponent. Serral is delivering a message to Reynor early on in this series, and that is that you cannot predict what I'm going to do next. There is no easy way to get insurance in this series. You're going to have to play the odds and maybe play a little bit safer as well if you want to be careful here.
Feels like all of the ZVZ losses of the past for Serral have come together to actually make him one superhuman. Any of the Muta stuff he's been able to figure out, any of the cheeses his opponents have thrown at him, like Rogue, he's figured out, and not just figured out how to defend, but he's actually absorbed it. He is actually looking so dominant. He's going with the attacks, he's going with the defense, macro, micro, everything looks so smooth for Serral. But you know what? The history of Reynor's run here in Katowice has been him going down more than a few maps and bringing it back at that one clutch moment, a real test of his mentality. We know that Reynor has it. Can he actually get a point on the board?
He's so darned focused. You mentioned that he's not bopping around. No signs of Italian rap music right now. Might spell a bad sign. Well, that's because this man right here has been an absolute monster. He is just looking like an absolutely immovable force. He has only dropped one game in this entire tournament so far. It is the Finnish beast, Serral.
And in the bottom right of Blackburn, guys, I think he does need your support. We know that Reynor loves the crowd. He gets enthralled by the crowd. He loves the energy. So bring that energy for the Blue Zerg clashes Reynor.
I'm going to be dreaming about that series yesterday between Reynor and Dark for a long time, because that was one where, similar to this, he found himself in deep water, struggling against a player that was putting him in hard circumstances, and boy, did he rally and fight back. He's done it before in so many of these big tournaments. He did it in the semi-final today, down 0-2 on the brink of defeat in Game 3, and he turns it around and wins the next 2 in a row as well. Reynor has just some special X factor. He has this ability to realize that when he is down but not out, he can just put in every single ounce of his energy, and where other players get stressed and think, oh my god, I'm almost eliminated, he somehow gets hyper focused and he's just so in the moment, and he finds ways to do things that, I mean, you wouldn't even think of when there's no pressure on your shoulders. You could be sitting there studying the replay and you wouldn't even think to do it, but Reynor in the moment has killer instinct.
He absolutely does. He has been so good about the comebacks, the comeback king. Again, you guys with the signs are pretty on point today, but Reynor, you know, it's actually just one of his biggest tests, honestly. Dark was quite troublesome indeed, but Serral has been so cool this entire game. And I mean that in, you know, multiple ways. He's been cool in a lot of ways. But absolutely, he just looks like everything is calculated. I know that he's admitted to some fears, but honestly, what StarCraft 2 player doesn't? And otherwise, his gameplay has said that I actually am not worried. I know that I can take the championship. All those other times, maybe not flukes necessarily, but I knew that I could have done it. And here it is today. Serral wants the 4-0. He's going to be going for the gold now on Blackburn.
Yeah, I mean, Serral loves being able to play here in front of the live audience as well. There's something about playing at LAN. Serral feels like he can just turn any computer he's competing on at any event into his own just comfort zone. It's his own space where he brings that A game. On this first day of the group stage, I was chatting to him and he said, oh, you know, it's a first live event in a while. It's a little bit rusty. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, just getting used to the live setup. And he said, oh, no, just the interviews. I'm not used to doing interviews. It's been a while in person. And I'm like, oh, he's like, no, playing, that's fine. He's like, this feels great. I feel fantastic. You know, I think I perform better than anybody else. He's very vocal about the fact that he thinks a lot of players drop down in performance at LAN and he doesn't. And that's part of his strength. But right now, we've got Lings coming out for both players. The skirmishes could be starting very soon.
Roach Warren comes down along with that gold for Serral. Now, Reynor's looking to start the harassment up. He does have a good number of Lings, sending some to the north and the south, and all perhaps distracting for those Banelings. They could actually come in and destroy Serral's Lings. Actually, Serral, he does see it in time to pull away, and now the micro war begins.
It's a lot of Zerglings from Reynor, and
Ooh,
Baneling trade does favor Serral in terms of the numbers, but you got to remember that Serral needs to defend this gold base. It's very exposed. Another Baneling goes down. Ooh, gets a decent detonation on that last one. And it looks like Serral will just barely have the numbers to hang on. It's a pretty even trade, though.
Yeah, that's of course, with Banelings, anything can go awry very, very quickly, and Reynor almost was stopped even faster, which does contribute to a StarCraft player's game, right? If it takes a long time to clean something up, that's actually a factor we have to consider. In that case, Reynor did spend a little bit of time being a nuisance, but ultimately did not get his goal, which was to really punish the gold base, stop it from mining for an extended period of time. It's not that he fell behind necessarily, but even though he's up in drones and he is taking on the income lead right now, that'll change as Serral mines from the gold.
Roach Warren now goes down for Reynor. Serral's already got a whole bunch of roaches on the way, just sitting on 31 drones. It looks like Serral wants to take the aggression to Reynor's side of the map. And he might get in there just before Carapace, but ooh, sneaky Banelings!
Yeah, even a couple of drones, though, as Reynor was still holding on to the economic lead. He, of course, now even extends it. Got the 2 arrows showing that, but the roaches and the lings, that is so much more important. Reynor probably thinking that he's actually against someone that's trying to grow up just maybe a little bit more. That is not actually true. The last drones come out for Reynor, and the spine crawler start. He realizes what's up.
Great evacuation here from Reynor, the Italian player. Pulling back, he saw that there wasn't enough drones on that gold base, and he is going to give up his third, which is absolutely the right call. Reynor has double the worker count. If he can hold on to this ramp, he'll be in a good spot. Look at that, transfuses on the queens. They will not let these zerglings and roaches inside, not for free. The Banelings come forwards, but the Banelings pulled back by Serral. He's still got a lot of Banelings alive. If they can connect with the spines, that'll be huge.
They're actually tucked in right now. They want to actually get into the center. They're going to go after the spine crawlers. There you have it. Not going to explode, actually. The confidence. He's actually just moved away from the spine crawlers, going after Reynor's army that is popping on top of the attack. Now that spine crawler is still contributing in a minor way, but the drones have to be pulled. Reynor desperately needs actually anything he can get. There you have it. The drones pulled again, wanting to save the spine crawler. This is an extended battle, but by the looks of things, Reynor is just, yeah, he's holding. Reynor takes a game just like that. Well defended.
Not gonna go down easily. That was a very sneaky attack, but Reynor scouted it. He reacted, and a very mature decision. How many Zerg players have we seen go down in these championships trying to defend that third? Reynor immediately understood how dire that situation was, and he just evacuated, pulled up the ramp, and that was a heroic hold. The Queens plugging that choke point for valuable seconds. The spine crawlers finishing up, the Banelings, the roaches popping, and a fantastic hold. I tell you, if he died to that one, I don't think there was any returning. But now, here, 2-1, that's a scoreline that Reynor can work with. He gets that little bit of momentum and can finally feel the energy building.
It's actually even more of a comfortable scoreline considering some of his previous series where he was actually on his last life and was still able to turn it around. So this is like, oh, wasn't last life? Okay, totally fine.
It's a best of 7, so first to 4. Yeah, I guess maybe he is learning from those previous series. A bit of a heart attack in the semifinals, and says, no, let's step it up right here, right now. And definitely the time to do it. You do not want to be giving Serral so many chances at knocking you out. It's 2 more wins for Serral, 3 more for Reynor to take out the championship.
And our maps are starting to be reduced as well. No more gold bases, no more conundrums, at least for that. But ZVZ has proven to be a tricky matchup over the last couple of years. At one point, it seemed like no one really liked it because there was a lot of roach wars, very stable, but maybe not the most interesting. That was back in like 2017. It then changed into one of the more dynamic matchups, lots of late games, lots of builds. And in the last year, it was nothing but cheese. Here we are in Katowice, and its return to that amazing multiple openers, multiple long games, multiple hype moments. And here we are into game 4. In the bottom left, as the red Zerg, he is representing ENCE Esports. He is Serral.
Settling into his groove. In the top right side, we have an Italian monster, a young gun, one of the quickest risers to international fame and StarCraft championships in the world. Put your hands together for Reynor. Won a lot of tournaments in the last few years, did Reynor. But you know what? All the way back about 8 years ago, when he was just a young 13, 14-year-old, he was already making it to quarterfinals in tournaments. Unfortunately, couldn't compete for a while due to age restrictions coming in and put a bit of a stopper on his career. But by God, the moment he hit 16, he was out there on the global stage, just absolutely taking the fight to the best players and establishing a name for himself.
Yeah, that was the first big story really in 2018. Well, the first story in 2018 was when Serral actually get the 4 WCS championships. But then the other story was that this young gun named Reynor had actually finally come of age to participate again in one of the last tournaments of the year. And the only way he was going to make it to the Grand Championship, Global Championships at that point was actually to win the entire thing. Who denied him? Serral. But he really made a mark on it. He was actually at that point known as maybe the next best Zerg. I think he's pretty much proven that over the years, and now it is a test again. Well, 4 years later, unbelievable to say that. They did have another test in 2019, one which Serral did win. Yeah, I believe that's how it went. But it just feels like everyone has ascended, really.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone is just so excited to actually be back in the stadium, guys. They can actually feel the vibrations. I can tell you that we feel the vibrations of the cheers. So when I can't hear anything, I know that they are actually feeling the excitement of a crowd.
They get to walk up those steps onto that stage and have an absolutely epic performance here. Would be something they will remember for the rest of their lives. And at this point, I think both players have earned each other's respect, Zombie Grub. I think the very quick, brutal games, the kind of, knifey, spoony, just getting in there with a bit of the stabby stab, definitely going to calm down a little bit. I don't think they're going to be going for such crazy attacks as much. I actually think here on Hardwire, we're going to get to see a longer, more drawn-out game. Maybe one where Serral tests Reynor's late game.
Might just happen. I really like that Serral has basically in the last couple of games shown us that he acknowledges how much that momentum really has mattered even against him, right? And a couple other ZVZs where he just decided, okay, I won that one game. I kind of weathered your tricks with that gold base, so I'm going to go ahead and be super aggressive and try and carry it forward. And it worked once, didn't work the next time. Now we're going to calm down. Perhaps we do get that macro game at the very least, getting into that mid game. 3 hatch for both players, Evolution Chamber as well, at least for Reynor. I think Serral's finished up. And, a little bit of the test with Ling Baneling, but not too much.
And that 4 Banelings morphing, very solid there for Reynor. Does need to defend that third base. Creep Tumor kind of late. Doesn't allow his queens to get over there very quickly, but the Banelings should be able to scramble over. Serral's going to get some good damage done on the hatchery. Splits 3 Zerglings for a Baneling. That's a perfectly even trade. And, okay, Baneling will damage some drones in the mineral line. Reynor's going to have to protect those. If Zerglings get in there, they can one-tap them.
Yeah, that is the problem. Still letting one Baneling in while you're under a bit of pressure. Now, Serral's not really committing a whole lot to this, but even a couple of Lings kind of getting away from your eye as you're focusing on other things, perhaps this Overlord kill, right? Suddenly you do lose 5 very important drones because right now they are trying to read when can I drone, when can I make an army, and of course, above that scout, what is my opponent's backup plan? What is my scouting? So denial of Overlords, getting Lings across the map simply for any knowledge they can actually get is very important. For instance, lack of knowledge here might cause Reynor to once again over-defend. We have a Spine Crawler actually coming out for him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Of course, he has been a little ahead on the economy, so I don't think it's the worst safety precaution by any means, but definitely a little bit of insurance there. And Serral's seeing it. That's a big tell. When you see your opponent building a Spine Crawler, you know they have absolutely no aggressive intentions. It's going to give Serral the go-ahead to just hold that worker key right on down. And as I said, he builds 4 roaches. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually, I was totally with you. I'm always going to be with you. You just lead the ZVZ page. But no, I really thought that was how I was going to be read, but apparently not. I guess that could also perhaps be just that anti-run by, right, that can happen, and actually roaches are perhaps going to the middle of the map. It is safer to get those couple of roaches to kind of start the defense. We see Reynor now doing it. Serral runs face first into a Baneling, but Reynor is getting that faster lair. He's getting his own kind of, if you will, safety roaches perhaps, but he's also been up in drones.
Okay, Ling's going to probe the wall. Baneling is nearby. Great split with 2 of those. But the roaches also out for Reynor. Going to defend. It's still equal on workers, but Reynor half a step ahead. 5 more workers on the way. And Aspire goes down immediately for Reynor. wanting to get out of this Roach game and get some mutas for air control. Oh, great response. After missing some attacks earlier in game 1, the Banelings surprising him. It's not going to happen again. Reynor, 2 drones for 2 Banelings. That's a trade he'll take any day.
Exactly. I mean, that was very last second, and the Spine Crawler apparently was not in place to deal with anything like that. It might reposition now, but that's Spire. So now it's kind of that test, just kind of waiting apprehensively. Does the Spire get to complete? Does it actually get to build those mutas? So we saw in a couple other games, okay, well, I'll finish my point. A couple other games, people go for like Nidus Worms, right? Trying to anticipate and actually just cut that, nip it in the bud. In this case, though, as I was speaking, Serral also throwing down a lot of gas, gets that Spire going, but his is a little bit later. So this always has a very interesting complication where it could be, you know, whoever scouts the Spire obviously would be in the better position. But as far as maybe who starts that +1 Carapace, if no one scouts the Spire, who scouts the first mutas, that kind of thing, it could actually be very interesting. And I do wonder if there's any chance we could have a weird enough game that someone decides to go into Corruptor, Roach Corruptor.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Zombie Grub, definitely. They're so committed to Roaches already. They don't have big gas banks. Both of them are thinking, let's get a handful of mutas out. But Reynor sees the Spire, Serral does not. And Reynor is going to commit to those mutas. The question is, does he keep on committing to them? We haven't seen an upgrade on the Spire just yet. We've got to keep an eye on that production tab. The Overseer here for Serral. He'd love to see it. And oh, he turns around.
Oh, I already saw it.
Never mind. Changeling already walked in there. That's all good. So both players know about the Spire. Continuing to commit to mutas is Reynor. And he's also building Queens, interestingly enough. And he's got more drones, does Reynor. Bailing there. Oh, whoops. Detonates. Hits nothing. Great dodge by Serral. Not going to find much damage.
There you have it. Corruptors are on the way for Serral. He has gone for this tactic as opposed to trying to just play out a very defensive Roach game into the Hydras, into the Queens and Spore Crawlers, maybe Infestors. That's going to be a very long game. One that won actually a style Serral has been tested with over and over again. But I believe it was actually 2019 where we started to see this developing Roach Corruptor response. And that was helping a lot of Zergs who otherwise struggled against the superior muta pressure at that point in the meta. This is actually one of the first conundrums between the two, mutas versus Serral. But these Corruptors, they do help push this back, and they also help with a frontal attack. That is, unless they die just because they're outnumbered.
Oh, Queen's coming forward though. Corruptor goes down, but so do 2 Mutalisks and an Overlord. I do prefer the Mutalisks. I always prefer to be on the Mutalisk side of this equation because they're more flexible. They shoot up, they shoot down. The problem is, of course, the tankiness of the Corruptors cannot be ignored. The fact that they can just stand and fight with the mutas, and even if the mutas win that fight, well, if you lose the Roach fight on the ground at the same time, by the time you clean up those Corruptors, you're not going to have any economy left. The Roaches are just going to run rampant, get through your mineral lines, and tear up your workers. So Reynor here right now massing mutas. He's adding some Spore Crawlers to help back himself up against the Corruptors. That tells me he's saying, look, if you do that, I'm going to fall back behind my Spores and just use the mutas to focus on the Roaches and ignore your Corruptors.
Yeah, Spores are just incredible against anything flying in the air that's biological, and since all Zerg is, that's why they're incredible. Muta's actually taking this fight. Is very interesting. Queen's coming in here, however, with Transfuses. I don't know if Reynor was anticipating that. Not to mention, 6 more Corruptors were built. So those Mutas could have easily overstayed their welcome, but the distraction might be the bigger part. Actually, Lings getting into the third base so far found out, and Roaches also being deflected. Serral, I think he maybe saw this coming a little bit, does have enough defenses, loses 8 drones.
I'd love to see how many Mutas have gone down versus Corruptors in this game. It's 12 versus 5. You can see the efficiency in that regard, but Reynor, remember, had an early worker lead, and he just got some more workers then. He's going straight up to 10 gases on 5 full bases. So Reynor's got money to spare, but he has dawdled a little bit on that attack upgrade. I do wish he got that earlier.
That's actually a very good point. I kind of assumed perhaps when I saw more mutas on the way that it was on the way, that it maybe had already finished. We usually see such a muta count even coming along on +2 perhaps, but no, very late on those upgrades. Trying to take the fights when he can. Some of these Corruptors getting a little apart from each other, but they should be winning the war ultimately. Serral actually pushing across the map. He's pulling back the mutas so his Roaches can effectively get across.
Reynor run buying on the left side at the same time. Serral's gonna have to scramble back to defend. Zergling's getting into all the bases right now. They do not have any attack upgrades, but they are gonna find some workers. Corruptors and mutas just brawling in the middle of the map. The muta count much larger right now. The Corruptors are the more expensive unit. Serral frantically trying to defend in multiple bases at once, and it does look like the Corruptors will hold their own.
Yeah, it looks like this is once again going to be just just one of those barely holds where a lot of other Zerg players that aren't Serral would have severely messed up on the defense in some place or another, but instead, again, mitigating that damage, only 5 drones go down. Now, I say that the overall game has been superior for Reynor in terms of economy, always mining more here. So the trades just furthering advancing that. But here's the attack that Serral wanted to do. He's actually across the map now, pressuring Reynor.
Those Corruptors are outnumbered, but the Roaches are such a threat. The Mutas have to turn back to fight the Roaches. I don't think he can stand to fight the Corruptors. Reynor, he's got some spines helping out, and those are really adding a lot.
Yeah, he also had spores that he maybe could have pulled back a little bit more too, but the Ling run by once again, trying to distract, trying to get some big kills to make this more all-in for Serral. The Mutas do push the Corruptors back. The Lings have found the damage. They found a humongous distraction. More drones are going down to the Lings, and Serral, while he did add a couple of drones to his own pocket, it's not nearly as much damage. He was already in a bad economic position, and Serral's just got worse.
Serral was literally just transfusing drones, trying to keep them alive. That is such an amazing set of run-bys, and he's not going to stop. Reynor's in his element now, and you know he absolutely loves bouncing around, picking his opponent apart. The Ling's running in from the left, the right, and the center. The Mutas have overwhelmed, and honestly, since that initial ball of Corruptors went down, Serral does not have the numbers. These Mutas are starting to overwhelm. The Ling's trying to get in. Emergency Evo Chamber goes down, but it gets cancelled. The Mutas blasting it. The Lings are in once again. The floodgates are open.
All momentum now on Reynor's side. He's actually continuing to find damage. More drones go down, more attacks, more fights with the Corruptors, and Reynor ties up the series 2-2, and he is now feeling pumped.
Oh, that is the scary play that Reynor is known for. Give him some Mutalisks, give him some Zerglings, and watch him make the magic happen.
That was actually kind of exactly familiar with the 2019 era. That really was the point where people were trying to figure out how to kill Serral at all, basically, but especially ZVZ. And one of those kind of like, well, is he weak to this? Like, should we try this, guys? Was the Muta style. He's been tested a lot. And as I was saying, we've also had some development from, I guess, the Zerg community into how to defend it. It seemed like he was, again, confident going into that mid stage, but all it took was that just consistent run-bys, right? Consistently pulling Serral out of position. The first one, not so bad. The second one, also not that bad. But then the third one, combined with Serral's, I guess, need to do damage, his need to push across the map, really was where the ball started rolling downhill.
And that's exactly it. Serral with that style, building Roaches and Corruptors. It's not a long-term composition. It's not going to scale that well. He had to take the fight to Reynor. It's exactly what Reynor was waiting for. All that static defense off of the back of that early economy lead that he built. He had so much insurance, all of that behind it. And even as the attack came, he did not stop doing the run-bys. Those Lings just kept going in from all sides. And it is now tied up 2 maps apiece. We're going into one of the biggest maps in the pool, one of the ones that has a ton of movement on it. And down here in the bottom left side, representing NC Sports, he's got the momentum turning against him. He's got to put the brakes on Reynor right now. Down here in the bottom left, this is Serral.
And in the top right, he's pushing that pedal down. He feels the acceleration. He feels the momentum. He is pumped. He was cheering after his own match. In the top right, we once again have Reynor. And no early builds this time around. As Pig was talking about, Glittering Ash is actually one of our largest maps, not just in that rush distance, guys, which is the natural main ramp, actually, to main ramp, but also in the actual size of the map left to right? The dimensions make it one of the especially large maps. So we have a lot more spreading out. We have a lot more of the game being decided maybe around that 5th or 6th hatchery time and how much people can defend in multiple places. Assuming that they do not manage to, I guess, throw it all in the mid game, we could be in for one heck of a late game ZVZ.
Definitely feel the game get more stretched out as you do expand out towards those corners. There's so many bases to be taken, but they're very hard to defend. The more economy you take, the more bases you take, the more areas you do, of course, have to defend against the harassment and the assaults of your opponents. And that is why we do love maps like this, because as it goes on, movement is going to be key. Controlling the center of the map and using that to branch out with your attacks and defenses also going to be massive. And so far, looks like the Queen's just slightly earlier for Serral, but otherwise pretty much a mirrored build order.
Yep, we are expecting that third hatchery to go down. There's a different way of opening in ZVZ other than 12 Pool, which is going for that 2-base Roach-Warren Evolution Chamber. It actually can be a very tricky build to read into, right? It kind of hides that scouting information. Could be Roaches, could be Nidus, could be Spire, could just be a very, very late but safe third base. But neither player actually going for it so far in this series. They do have third hatcheries definitely on the line, and there you have it. Both of them brought it.
As those third hatcheries go down, you see the gas is still coming in for both players, and the Baneling Nest goes down for Reynor. For Serral as well, just a moment later. This is a true mirror matchup. Now, this is where Zerglings and Banelings rule supreme. The first few minutes of the game, as you've seen in the previous ones, Lings, Banes, with that Ling speed, are able to just run around the map. And if it wasn't for the Banelings, the Zerglings would just destroy everything. But the Banelings, of course, their explosive ability devastates the Zerglings, taking them out in one shot. And as a result, you've got this kind of dancing back and forth, pressuring your opponent's third base, trying to drone up your own one. And if there was ever a time to continue with a Mutalisk play, I really think this is just such a good map for it.
That's a very good point. It could actually be on their mind, but then of course on their opponent's mind, so they might be very eager to scout it and react to it. And actually, as I was mentioning last game, go for an Nidus Swarm. But time will tell. I want to point out that kind of really cute little maneuver with the Lings. Serral was trying to save his Overlord from that last-second snipe from the last Queen shot, right? And by actually body blocking and taking the fight to the Queen with just 2 Lings, he was able to save that Overlord. So that's not just 100 minerals that you have to replace. It's not just a potential supply block that you have to consider. It also is literally the only scouting that Zergs get, which to be fair is actually a lot. Nothing really shoots up on the map except Queens that are slowly moving off of creep. So, yeah, it's an important actual defense there in the very early game. But okay, so a little bit of a difference here. Serral adding on a Roach Warren and a Lair.
Kind of feels almost like fake Roaches for Serral, but with the +1 range coming in so early, he's probably going to be committing to them eventually. Just definitely feels like he wants to drop a Spire as soon as that lair is finished. I could be wrong. Could just be Overseers for scouting. If there's one thing Serral loves, it's knowing what his opponent's doing and then just dancing around that. Serral's not always the player who goes into it needing to make some big, massive play. He just waits for his opponent to do it. He's just doing standard, solid things. He's so good defensively. And if you can see what his opponent does, that's when he makes a plan.
Definitely heard the Baneling explosion. I didn't see it. So it just ran by and was denied perhaps a little run by there. So no damage between the two, yet Reynor actually ahead on those drones. Not by very much, right? Every time I'm going to say that, Serral's probably just right behind on that production tab, and he's just by a little bit, saturating a little bit more. You called it a little bit faster of a lair for Serral is going to lead into his own Spire, but hold on, Reynor not too far behind on that lair, also starts up a +1 melee.
And faster gases on his natural, so Serral knows that's Mutas. And this is where Serral needs to make a decision. Are you willing to play a Mutalisk war against Reynor? He drops his own gases on the third. He knows they're later. He does have a quicker Spire, but is he going to double down in this Muta war? Because this could get really interesting, but Reynor queuing up more Queens.
Whoa.
It's actually Reynor who's dodging the Mutalisk war. He sees his Spires behind. He's going double Evo Chamber. Mass Zerglings, and he's got the Infestation Pit there as well. I mean, this is going to be him heading up towards probably Ultralisks behind that. Could just be Vipers added on top with Infestors to counter the Mutalisks of his opponent. This is going to be a real fascinating and dynamic matchup. We do not see players just playing Mass Zergling Queen into Ultralisks.
Yeah, actually, the last time that I saw the double upgraded Ling successfully counter, if you will, a Muta player was probably on the map Whirlwind, which only a few people out there will even recognize. So it's been a while, but actually can be oddly effective. Really important denial of the scouting right now as Reynor. Okay, I spoke too soon. A little bit of caster curse.
Get in the main, buddy.
Oh, he's not going to get in the main.
Oh.
That Overseer did not see everything, right?
No, I don't think so. Those Queens really did a great job of shepherding. I mean, Reynor realizes you cannot give away what you're doing here because you're being so cheeky. And look at this Serral. He's building lots of Roaches right now. He's going, hey, wait a second. What's going on here? What are you doing? What are you up to? And he knows something strange is happening. He's building tons of Roaches, trying to figure out what it is. But oh my lord, this is not even in the playbook. This is not even something Serral's considering as an option. And he's building Corruptors right now.
Oh no.
Oh, that's a massive misread.
That is not going to do anything. It's so important that Reynor is able to deny the scouts, because really that would be equally good if he actually was going for a Spire, you know? Even though you're kind of like, well, you saw the gases, maybe you know. You'd still want to hide the actual confirmations. For all Serral knows, it is that Spire, and he just did an appropriate job of denying me scouting, and then he's waiting. Maybe he's bulking up some mutas, right? Maybe he's waiting until he has a better number. Absolutely not the case. Ling's now with gonna soon to have double upgrades, already on that +1. We got some hot micro going down here, dodging the Baneling just well enough. Grabs the hatchery with the last 3 Lings there. And on top of the mind game success from Reynor, it feels like this is already turning so well for the Italian Zerg. I know you mentioned Ultras, I was kind of thinking it too, but I kind of forgot. Lurkers, pretty darn good. Double Lurker Den actually coming down, skipping multiple steps in ZVZ and trying to get to the late game.
Well, Serral has run into this type of style before. And I mean, Lambo is out there somewhere whispering in Reynor's ear, because this is his build order. It's the double Lurker Den timing. It's a fantastic attack coming out of Serral, though, walking across the map. Will the Lurkers be ready? I don't think there's any Roaches on the ground. Is Reynor just playing pure Ling Lurker?
Yes, I mean, with the Hydras, I guess, until they turn into Lurkers. Queen's gonna try and buy some time. You gotta give up that base. Reynor is desperately trying to buy more time. Actually catch some reinforcements, sure, but mostly keep Serral from attacking before he's ready to go. Now the jig is up, the Hydras have been seen, and the Lurkers have got to be on the forefront of Serral's mind. He started up his infestation pit. He's gonna go to his own hive. He's gonna try and catch up to that late game, but Reynor has gotten here first. 5 Lurkers on the way, double upgrades. However, Serral actually finding a moment here, captures a lot of Hydras, captures some of the Queens. All of the army was not together to defend on that Spine Crawler, so that looked a little bit sketch for a second, but the double upgraded Lings do come back, and Serral had not actually reinforced this push as much as we were expecting. Yes, the Queens come across the map, but at this point, they're looking a bit awkward.
Those Hydras, I'm not sure if they're double upgraded just yet, but they will be enough to clean up this army. And indeed, those Hydras do not have movement speed. They do not have range. They are not good units on Big Crow. Those Hydras are pretty much terrible. They're dead weights. They're just there to morph into Lurkers. But Lurkers plus Zerglings, Reynor is going to do one of the silliest plays out. And he had a period doing this a few years ago. He was like, this is a really legit styles, guys. It's good.
Oh.
And everyone was saying, no, it isn't. But no,
the Corruptors. They actually killed it so quickly.
Oh!
The transfuse is gone down.
It finished.
Oh my
It finished.
Both of them finish.
Oh
the Lurker
my
Dens
God.
do die, so no more Lurkers, but he's already built so many, and they have both upgrades.
Whoa. The Roaches take some big hits there. It's going to be a few minutes till Serral gets up.
Oh my God.
Oh, he wasn't looking, and his Roaches just get slaughtered. The Corruptors flying around like a bunch of useless jellyfish in the sky. They have no function in this game. They've got no business being here.
Reynor takes that game in such interesting fashion. That was so last second. What a build, what a decision. Serral now realizing, wait a second, I am down in this best of 7. This guy is starting to build up the momentum, and not just with some standard stuff, but bringing out the fun builds as well.
Who the hell does that in the grand finals? What to just not end up going for the spy, to go upgraded Zerglings and just say, that's it, we're just rushing Hive. I'm just gonna go straight to double Lurker Den and try and get the fastest massling Lurker out that you've ever seen. Serral was completely confused. He was trying to read, which build is this? Out of the bunch of normal build orders, the good strategies, the standard strategies. Reynor pulled out some bizarro world stuff from the Upside Down and caught Serral completely off guard.
Yes, the Upside Down, exactly. Oh man, I'm so hype about that transfuse on the Lurker Den. Was that upgrade the actual make it or break it difference of Reynor's defense? Probably not. 10 Lurkers, even without the upgrade, are probably going to hold on that base, but it probably does dramatically change how I guess urgent Serral is going to feel, right? How much he's actually going to try and push with those Roaches. So instead of pushing, having them die to a simple, just 1 second turnaround, he actually pulls back, tries to control the 3 bases, buy enough time to get to his own Lurkers. Yep. It's definitely a difference, guys. But right then and there, the fact that both finished, the Lurkers were way too good. That was just too much for Serral to think that he could come back from.
What a momentum shift we've witnessed here in this series. This is, of course, 3 maps in a row. This is 4 maps that Serral's lost in this entire tournament in this last week, and 3 of them we've just witnessed happen in a row. It's a huge momentum swing, and that last game there, I mean, that's just not, there's wins, there's losses, and then there's games that just really want to push you into a dark and tilted place, Zombie Grub. And I tell you, when your opponent pulls out some nonsense like that in the grand finals and totally screws you over on the mental game, it's very frustrating. This is where Serral needs to knuckle down and find a way to move past that last game. It was so befuddling, so confusing, but he's got to go into the next game with a bit of a fresh mindset. And if he's expecting more shenanigans like this, I think he's got to get away from the Corruptors. The Corruptors are a bit of a one-dimensional tool. It's very not fluid. And Reynor, we see what he does. If you put yourself in the slower, more kind of less nimble unit composition of Roach Corruptor, he dances around it. He does this sort of style where he finds a way to get in from all sides. I think if you're in that situation against Serral, you don't want to go for a Mutalisk war. You've got to just go for the Infestors, the Lurkers, the Vipers yourself. Go to the late game. We know that he's a god at late game.
We do know that. It's just that there have been multiple, even really big tournaments where he has fallen victim to the Muta play. It seems like it's going all right. It seems like he's doing all the right things. And then it actually turns out that he's been a little too contained. Guys, it's been an amazing best of 7 series so far, but we are going to take a break. When we return, it is the grand finals of IEM Katowice. Welcome back, everyone. We have the best of 7 ZVZ finals continuing here. Reynor now up 3-2. We were discussing how quickly it seemed to have turned around. Serral was looking dominant in the first 2 games, looking to continue with the momentum in the third, denied by Reynor, and now Reynor has picked up the momentum. The thing that we know, he actually just rides away with the victory of the entire tournament. We know he can do that, and it's looking like that here. But Serral, we talked a lot about the comeback potential of Reynor, a lot about his mental stability. Serral, ditto, basically. He's one of the first non-Koreans, I feel like, to really show just the cold emotion, I guess. Just keep level-headed throughout really stressful scenarios, and this is certainly one on your last life.
He definitely gets angry, does Serral. Games like that last one definitely trigger him a little bit, but he's so good at channeling it into this cool, controlled rage that he uses as an energy to fuel his play in the next games, and he calculates how to do it, and I'm sure that energy is building within him right now because he has to win the next 2 maps in a row. In the bottom left side, representing NC Sports, the Red Zerg, this is Serral.
In the top right of 2,000 atmospheres, we do have the Blue Zerg looking for his 2nd victory at an IEM Katowice. He is Clash's Reynor.
The Reynor train might just be moving a little bit too fast for anyone to stop at this point. There's so much momentum on his side in that last game. Oh, that's definitely the sort of game that sparks joy for Reynor. He knows he just did some cheeky stuff. He's going to be really pleased with himself because he loves doing that on the big stage and having some fun with it. Everyone does, but definitely caught his opponent off guard and unawares, and it's going to give, real pause to Serral as he's clearly got a Corruptor Roach game plan against Mutas. Hasn't worked. 0 for 2. Obviously, one of the games it wasn't actually Mutas he was playing against, but still, it seems like that strategy isn't working out for him. And this is the perfect opportunity for Reynor to just go Mutas again and see how Serral handles it, because it's not going to be plan A.
I do think that Serral, more likely, right? We can kind of guess this based off his history, is going to be down on one of his last lives and actually say, okay, calm down, do the macro thing, do the steady processing, right? So that does include playing perhaps very defensively against a Muta player. But really, there is so much more to consider for someone in Serral's position. Down a game to ZVZ on your last life. There are still so many tricky parts to ZVZ, so many layers in the mind game. So Reynor probably knowing, hey, I got you with that silly build. Okay, you know they probably won't do it again, but I am Reynor. So, are you sure? The Muta thing, right? I could go Mutas, but I obviously just proved that I'm good with Mutas. I'm also good with other things. So do I actually use the Spire, use Scout? Nidus Storms could still make an appearance, right? I mean, there's just so much to actually consider, and I'm even only talking about lair tech stuff, right? There's still so many all-ins in the early game.
Well, so far it is going to be the front hatchery for both players as the Zerglings skirmish just a little bit. Backing on off from that pressure does Serral. Reynor Zerglings chasing him around through the bushes. And the third queen does start up for Serral. Reynor building a couple more workers, and as his Overlord pops, probably going to be getting a third queen himself as well.
Once again, starting out similar to that last game, we expected the last map to be probably the best scenario, I suppose, for Supreme late game. Reynor just skipped all the steps that would usually put him at an equal footing with his opponent. Just went right towards those lurkers. And you know that the lurkers are the ultimate end game, especially with the double upgrades, which he was able to get. Almost guaranteed not to happen in a similar fashion, but talking about fast layers, that is certainly one of them. 330 on that layer. Reynor going to be desperately trying to hide that from his opponent.
This is exactly the play, I think. Definitely just get straight up into that Muta tech. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to get the fast melee upgrade here to pair on up with it. But definitely something where Serral's going to need some info. Zergling's very defensive for him. Warlock is getting up for Serral. Love to see him poking aggressively with those Zergs.
Then get Roachmorns on the fronts. Can still come down to the evolution chamber difference. We saw both of them go Spire actually last game before that, game before that. And then last game, Serral thought they were both going for a Spire, and that ended up being one of his downfalls. So now we're just kind of waiting apprehensively for the lair to finish. So much scouting trying to be attempted, not just getting through into the natural, into the main, but also on those gases, on that drone count, making sure at the very least right now, there is a plan for macro. There's not a bunch of roaches about the top, right? But there's still so much more to actually scout that both of them are denying each other.
Well, Reynor actually not showing indications of building a Spire as he doesn't take the fourth cast until quite late. And it looks like he's just droning on up. It's fascinating that he made a lair so early because I'm not sure he made an Overseer. And normally it's either you want a fast Spire or you'd love to get some scouting. He does drop a Spire himself, but it's not I'm playing mass Muta. It's I'm letting +1 range finish, I'm getting a great economy, and very likely to be a handful of Mutalisks, and otherwise just Roaches on the way. Now, the lack of fast casters on the third means there's no easy tell for Serral to realize that his opponent's rushing up the tech tree in this game. But Reynor already ahead a bunch of workers. Serral just committing to a big timing attack here. He's building Roaches and Zerglings. I don't see drones in that production tab, Zombie Grub.
Yes, more Roaches are on the way, making a lot more Overlords as well, preparing for the swell of that supply-intensive unit, the Roach. That is definitely indicating an attack. Now it's up to Reynor to actually scout that and prepare for it. He is building his own Roaches, but he's also gone for a fourth base. He has 14 more drones. That is going to affect his army supply. And of course, he has a Spire. 200 down the drain, potentially. A Nidus Worm finally gets thrown down in the series.
Lings coming on in here for Serral, finding a little bit of damage. 4 drones, not too bad. And a bunch of the Banelings actually get detonated for not all that much. Serral's got the Nidus Worm there. He's hit it very well. And that is just amazing play for him. He's made it very hard for Reynor. Reynor did just build even more drones to replace the ones that died. Roaches moving forwards across the map. And yes, Reynor has Mutas on the way, but it's only 5 of them. And he is severely outnumbered on the ground. And with the Nidus Worm that'll be coming in behind this, there's going to be a massive reinforce for Serral. Reynor, has he been too greedy?
Whoa. Actually, I thought that was maybe a bit too greedy from Serral, but his army does arrive in the nick of time. Right on the front of Reynor's base, the drones have been pulled away. They are going to be sacrificed temporarily, but some of them make it to safety. The Mutas have popped out, but so has the Nidus Worm. Queen starts building forth. Roaches from Serral actually already here, tearing down the structures, tearing down the wall, leading into Reynor's natural.
Oh, those spines ain't going to be finishing, Zombie Grub. Serral hitting a very sharp timing attack. It looks like he expected Reynor to try and sneak out these Mutalisks, and he is hitting the perfect attack timing just before the Mutas can get value.
And there it is, going to game 7. Serral saying, no, you don't get to be the one that just plays around here. I am prepared to punish you, and doing so in dominant fashion, making that build just look super easy. Reynor had no idea, not fast enough anyways, and that Nidus Worm being as aggressive as it was just made it, I mean, who would actually hold that, right? Unless your spine colors perhaps were built in the main, but then at that point you'd be sacrificing 2 hatcheries. It'd still be game over.
It would be incredibly hard to hang on in that situation, and honestly, it's just building too many workers and going Aspire. If you're already up 14, 15 workers and, you know, Roach versus Roach, it's so hard to defend, especially with the Nidus Worm reinforcing. You're trying to build Mutalisks as well. Got caught on the greedy train, and Serral manages to smash the glass that says, in case of emergency, break this. Pulls the emergency brake, and it looks like finally that 3-game winning streak of Reynor is put to a halt. It's back on match point. It could be anyone's series at this point.
How many times has ZVZ had the emergency break when necessary? Nidus. Probably a lot of times at this point.
That is the Nidus Worm. It's smashing through the glass. It literally is that. It's a very good way of handling it. And it's something where both players are going to be so careful. We are going into the smallest map out there. It's all going to be decided in a brutal battlefield. Down here in the bottom right side, the Finnish beast. Put your hands together for NC Sports, Serral!
It is the final game of the series, guys. The final time to cheer on this player. In the top left of Curious Minds, he is the Blue Zerg, Clashes Reynor!
Hatchery first for both players here on Curious Minds. And this is a map where the attacks come across so fast, so quick in the opponent's faces. After a game like the last one, it's not going to be a great situation for Reynor to just dive on up towards Mutalisks. You know, the thing that seems like it's so scary for Serral to play against, both historically and in this series against Reynor. Well, this is not the best map for it, because those Roach attacks are going to get over to you even quicker, and it's going to be harder to survive to that point in the game.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of the Spire plays or fake Spire plays have come down on our largest maps in the map pool, allowing you hopefully that extra couple of seconds to actually get them out in time and prepare a defense. Did not happen in our last map, of course. Reynor could not defend, but nonetheless, still more popular on those maps. Curious Minds could be very explosive, could be maybe even a hatchery-based all-in to try and finalize this grand finals. Both players, I think, actually at this point in their career, equally capable of throwing out an all-in in Game 7.
This would be just so historic if Reynor could bring this out. Remember that he was the runner-up in that 2019-2020 season, managed to win the championship in the 2021-2020 season. If he could win another one here, I mean, not only back-to-back Katowice, but also the grand finals the year before, it would be absolutely insane for Reynor to do so well in back-to-back world championships. Let's see what he's got in store. Historically, between these two, you'd think, okay, this is where you play safe and careful. Serral, he does follow that usually in Game 7. Reynor, though, I gotta tell you, he has beaten Serral multiple times with just a dirty all-in attack. You mentioned, you know, he's got those tricks under his belt. He has not shown too many in recent history, and he's just opening up standards so far. Baneling Nest's third bases for both of them.
I think at least one of these games we expected to get into Lurkers legitimately, as in both of them get to Lurkers. Both of them have the Viper Wars that we're seeing from some of their earlier ZVZs, especially Reynor, and actually has yet to happen. It would be quite funny for it to happen on one of our smaller maps, but that is possible. Right now, a lot of that scouting formation going down, the test of the Ling micro as well. No one trying to commit to kind of an odd number of Lings to actually get a surprising pop on that third hatchery, although that is sometimes an option. And now we have kind of the drone wars, which actually in the past few games, we have had Reynor maybe lead a little bit more. Last game, he was leading and then obviously just over-droning at a certain point because Serral was all-inning. But Reynor just a little bit quicker to that button. And that is really just all we've got to talk about. There's just seconds of difference between the two builds.
Absolutely, very close still on both sides. And it's interesting, you notice how Serral, he'll build a pack of Zerglings but keep them defensive. Not a lot of players will do that. Most players build the Zergs, they get straight across the map and try to do damage. Serral likes to shut down his opponent's information where possible. You can see him sealing up the wall on his natural expansion. Both players going for +1 range. Reynor got his own Roach Horn as well. And the Zerglings there for Serral, still just posturing around, seeing what they can find. Reynor looking for scouting information, sneaking a Zergling across the map.
Not nearly as fast on those layers. Last two games have given us a false impression of what perhaps usually can happen in ZVZ, but it's right into +1 missile and Roach's first personal slap down, at least more gas is Reynor, but Serral not too far behind. Now just clearing out the Overlords, trying to make sure that your opponent at least is a little more suspicious about what's happening. Do I actually have the opportunity to drone just a little bit more, or do I have to be afraid of an attack?
Equal work is still half a step ahead, is Reynor in that race. Zergling gets in, sees the gases have been taken, not much else. Reynor also seeing Serral's lair is underway. Neither player going for a hatchery tech Roach attack, and they're both actually settling in. Neither one taking a crazy risk just yet. This is just balanced, straightforward Zerg versus Zerg. And remember, when you get to Game 7, you don't always have the most perfect plan for that 7th game. You've already used up a lot of your very well, precisely planned attacks and surprise strategies. This is where you go back to fundamentals a little bit and you say, let's wait for them to make a play. Let's play really rock solid and see who's gonna step forward first. Serral with a handful of roaches. This is not a real attack though. He's got a lot of drones coming out behind it.
He does, but once again, falling a little bit behind. Now is his time to catch up. It really is just roaches and roaches, guys. No Spires coming down. Perhaps something will change in just a little bit, but we have one of our first kind of even actual heading into roaches. When we head into roaches, we are kind of expecting actually even a leap forward into perhaps those lurkers, but that's a little bit later on. Roach numbers are starting to increase for both parties. They both settle around 66 drones. That once again, we have some Ling run-bys, lots of Overlords now being pumped out for Serral.
Well, neither side starting +2 range just yet. As I say it, Reynor does click on that upgrade. Serral's got the second Evo chamber. He's got to get the +2 range going.
That was really a lot of Overlords. I mean, Serral was technically supply block for a hot second, but actually 7 of them coming down. Doing more finishing, but anyways, it's definitely not for anything nefarious. 2-1 is on the way for Serral. +2 at least starts up for Reynor. Does he have that second evolution chamber to actually start the upgrade? I'm not sure that he does. Reynor, that is.
I think he skipped on it for now. Reynor just focusing on the more important +2 upgrade. Give him a bit more gas for Ravagers. You know, it's not the most impactful, the carapace, but if we see a roach fight and then another roach fight and another and another, that's where it starts to stack up that value over time, right? So definitely something that we've got in mind. Reynor adding a couple of queens here. That's usually insurance against Mutalisks. But Serral is not doing it. He's just going Mass Roach versus Mass Roach. They are neck and neck in the workers. Reynor, of course, has led in the supply a little bit throughout this game, and he's going to be the first one to drop the Spire.
Yeah, we do have that change in approach to the mid-game. Spire coming down for Reynor and Tunneling Claws for Serral, something that he did get earlier in the series, but by that point he actually got to use it. Let's be real, he basically had already won the game. Does have a visual difference on the roaches, right? So if Serral can actually maybe deny a little bit of scouting, actually be able to burrow some of the roaches, they can set up for multiple points of harassment, but as soon as the upgrade finishes, then it's very actually easy for Reynor to figure out. I will say that the Hydralisk ends well timed with that Spire. I do wonder how much Reynor is really going to be committing to the Mutas. My gut feeling, right, is that it's not a lot. It's going to be kind of like a little sprinkling of Mutas to really bother Serral. Get that map control, kill the Overlord. Speaking of which, a couple of drop Overlords now on the way for Serral.
Maybe not going to use him, though, as he's just spotted the Spire, almost finished. Now that Hydra Den on the way. This is a small map, so remember, something like a Roach Hydra normally feels like an all-in. On this small map, just attacking with Roach Hydra, trying to push through the guy who's building more Mutas. It's also Reynor. What is Reynor known for? Building far too many drones. He's done it a few times in this series. If he thinks he can get away with being greedy, he'll do it. And 11 Mutalisks actually coming out of Zombie Grove. That's a pretty high number for Reynor, so he really wants to get some work done with that.
We do usually expect like 8 with that type of Spire timing, but 11 gonna have a little bit more to say. Maybe the defense is going to come down to those Mutas. This actually happened really quickly. Serral actually pulling the trigger, getting on top of Reynor's roaches. Reynor, where is your army? The Mutas are coming out. There it is, coming from the south side, a little late to the party, but nonetheless still having a good time. That was temporarily very scary, but now it's actually Serral on the retreat being chased by the Mutas.
Very scary moment there for Reynor, but he managed to frantically get those roaches over, scramble to defend. And the roach is going to burrow to start regenerating. Overlords will start getting picked off. Value will start coming out for the Mutalisks. Now, the Hydras have been shown. I'd love to see Serral drop an infestation bit. Look at that, the burrowed roaches. Of course, well, they get dropped and they can be burrowed to continue to maneuver around, getting already 5 drones and a queen inside the main base. Nice harassment from Serral.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of other things to consider other than just how the roaches look. Are there Overlords headed to my base? But they are trying to get some good harassment. This is also a benefit of having those Mutas. Clear up the Overlords for the scouting, clear up the Overlords that are trying to drop. But once again, Reynor finds himself out of position.
And look at this, he's got the upgrade advantage and some Hydras in the back. That's going to add a lot of damage to this army. Serral with a beautiful Roach Hydra attack. The Biles spreading forward, breaking Reynor's line. Reynor right now getting Roach dropped at the same time. They popped back up inside his main base and picked off even more workers. Serral, absolutely relentless. And he wants this trophy that's eluded him for so damned long. Reynor, he's barely hanging on. He's got his 3rd base being taken out. He's had to transfer drones to his 4th. Reynor's not out of it yet, but things are looking great for Serral.
Absolutely, that is a huge loss of that base, and Reynor still finding himself down in that upgrade. It could just get worse. He knows that he has to return some damage. He has to put the pressure on Serral at this point. He has successfully supply blocked him, but that is very temporary. Serral still has the equal army supply. The Hydra's kind of behind it as well, dealing a lot of DPS. It probably is very safe for him to grab this upgrade, grab this infestation bit, and extend his lead.
Oh, there we go. Nice roach run by from Reynor. Just 2 roaches darting on in there. And here we go. Attack on the front as well. Quick cancel on the Ravager Morph from Serral. And his reinforcements will close in on it. Biles landing for Reynor. And a quick evacuation. Reynor definitely needs to get out of there. And the Biles do hold back Serral for now. Reynor, of course, short on cash. Serral with a 25 army supply lead at this moment. He's going for Hive. He's going for a Lurkiden. +2 carapace to continue his upgrade advantage. Those Mutalisks need to find some value.
I mean, Reynor did find Serral's army temporarily out of position. A little bit of revenge, but not nearly enough. He is kind of desperately hoping that Serral really does get distracted a little bit too much. Perhaps he loses some Hydras on the front line. Perhaps he morphs his Lurkers in error, actually close to the army, something along those lines. But so far, Serral is holding on to his 4 bases. getting to that superior technology. Reynor at this point forced to just play consistently with a mid-game army that might give you a little bit more mobility as your opponent adds on lurkers, sure, but ultimately is not the better late-game army.
Oh, the meter's getting value, but Serral has snuck on by him again. And he's got roaches burrowed into the bases. Reynor, though, also running roaches into his bases. This is chaotic. There is a lot going on all at once. Who is going to come out on top? 8 drones go down for Serral. The Mutalisk still alive and getting value. Reynor is digging deep. He wants those back-to-back championships, and he is willing to dig in his heels right now. But he's going to have to make a play, Zombie Grub. He does not have a hive. He does not have an infestation pit even. He's seen the hive and the lurker den on the way. He's got to make something happen right now with these roaches and ravagers.
And I'm not sure this is going to be it. It is hitting before that +2 carapace of his opponents, but it's too good of an arc, too good of Defender's advantage to actually take that particular fight. Lurkers have now finished up. Their upgrade is on the way. At this point, Reynor, yes, he's desperate to do some damage, but he's also desperate just to live. If he could get to his own lurkers, draw the line on the sand, then maybe even without the upgrades, even without the bank, he could start to mount a comeback. Heck, Dark was doing it a lot to him yesterday, but can he play like that player? I'm not sure about that. Reynor really needs to find an opening, and Serral is just not giving him one.
Right now, he's controlling the map is Reynor. He's about 2.5 minutes behind on those important upgrades. Vipers and Lurkers very far behind for him. Almost gets a Lurker, and then does quickly get out, but more drones going down. And this is awesome damage to the economy of Serral. He's going to find another trade on the north as well. There is a Lurker in there. You've got to watch out for those Lurkers. Finds Reynor.
Yeah, his Ravagers actually thought maybe they could take the fight. There's so many more Ravagers for Reynor, right, that maybe he thought he could do something, but that was incorrect. They actually get trapped where they were, and a lot of them go down. Lurker harassment now has started. Reynor once again down in supply, and even worse perhaps is back on his side of the map without any lurkers. If he lets Serral get to his half, it's going to be terrible.
He's got to buy another couple of minutes, Zombie Grub, but he doesn't have time. Serral realizes the advantage he has. Serral's economy has taken a bit of bruising in these last waves, but it does not matter because his army is uncontested. The Lurkers methodically moving forward. Reynor's got to try to catch them when they're unburrowed, and he's got to buy time. Even giving up this base is absolutely worth it. He cannot fight into that choke point. Serral's army is just so darn scary.
Yeah, he has to buy so much time and get a couple of snipes as well. He decided to take the fight over to the south side. That's actually where there's not too many lurkers, so he is desperately trying to hold on. His +2 carapace is also going to finish, putting them back on the equal upgrades, but lurkers, they only care so much about that. It looks like Serral is wary. He doesn't actually want to overextend, perhaps start getting his lurkers picked off by the Ravagers. Actually, Adaptive Talon's not done there. Does lead to a loss of a couple of more lurkers, and Serral actually does not win with that push. He has to pull back, and actually Reynor defends at home and has roaches still dealing damage on the other side of the map. It's back and forth. We thought that Serral had gotten to the ultimate composition, and 10 more lurkers are on the way. It's still arguable for sure that he is in the lead, but Reynor at least has Vipers.
Pulling back might have been a mistake there, Zombie Grub. I understand Reynor here is the comeback kid, but he has found a way when his army was infinitely worse to pull Serral home. Serral's economy is lower. The tech is coming out. The Vipers so important with their blinding cloud and their abduct. The ability to rip the lurkers out of the ground is massive. He's still controlling a forward position on the map, desperately trying to buy time. Reynor knows he can't fight head on. He's trying to do run bys, but oh, the lurkers are close. Get out of there, Reynor.
Yeah, now they have that speed probe. Oh, the misclick from Serral. A couple of more lurkers in Reynor's pocket. I was gonna say they are so good at being able to reposition, but also to actually dodge and get out of the, the way of the other army. But it's not actually the case for that particular fight. Reynor starting to feel a little bit of confidence again. Now has those Vipers as well. So when his back is up against the wall, it's actually not as bad as it was a minute ago.
Oh, he's actually getting into that tech. I can't believe he survived. He was so massively far behind in tech, but oh, that's a big catch for Serral. And Reynor, just when it looks like he's catching up in the tech, does get a massive army of roaches caught out. They're going to run by, and a lot of them deep in the red.
No!
Oh! Referee A! Oh, no!
Oh, no! Oh, my gosh. I guess there are worse moments, but...
Yeah. Now, obviously, one of the other admins would have hit that pause button. So the moment that lag screen does kind of go out and that player drops, it will immediately pause. The player's obviously not too pleased with that, as it looks like there was some sort of PC crash somewhere out there wherever the referees are set up. Something along those lines. But honestly, what a crazy moment this has been.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll keep careful in terms of talking about the gameplay in case those headsets do come off. But what an intense moment, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, we'll stick to complimenting what they've already done, I suppose. And I do want to compliment Reynor on the hold, right? And the way that he's doing it is actually a bit reminiscent of perhaps a TBT. We talked a lot about, oh, actually, we're getting into the game.
All right.
Notice we're back into the game, so forget about that analogy. Not important. Far more important was that Reynor had just had a lot of roaches, still important for his purpose. Actually caught a little bit off guard, had to run away. Some of them managed to evacuate, but Reynor does once again have a couple of things going for him. He had the faster Vipers, well now Serral does too. He has perhaps the more mobile army, but that does mean that when the lurkers are burrowed, he can't necessarily take it on. He just has to find them burrowed or have the Vipers go for the abduct, and that's exactly what he does. Multiple lurkers getting killed there.
Serral's economy is really weak, Zombie Grub, and he's not really reinforcing it. It really feels like Serral just wants to use this army here, keep a massive army on the field and do what he can with it. Of course, Reynor is tied with him, 50 workers himself, but Reynor is the one who's being a little bit quicker to pop that worker count back up and try to recover. But here he goes on the top side. Roach Ravager army still in the very large numbers for Reynor. Does not have a lot of lurkers, or in fact any lurkers, I believe. He's just focusing on Roach Ravager mobility and the Vipers to help disable the enemy lurkers.
Serral trying to get stable again, knows that if he can kind of find Reynor unguarded, maybe start picking off some of his own Vipers, right? Getting those abducts, there he finally go, though we also have some Corrosive Biles actually hitting. Then Serral's army is still super intimidating. Reynor has only just started his lurker transition. In fact, the Hydralisk Den just finished. No lurker den yet.
Hydras are now on the way for Reynor. He might want to stay more mobile and avoid the lurkers. We saw versus Dark. He likes to run around the map, have a heavy Viper count, and just abduct units into them. That way he doesn't have to bother with the burrow unburrow, but of course you do need lurkers eventually as well. He's going to shove on in, but he's got to get out of there. The Blinding Cloud defensively there from Serral does force him back. And at this point, as the game locks down, you're going to see more abducts come out. Ravagers, Hydras, any unit you can pull in is going to be massive.
Some lurker harassment, but I am surprised to say that Reynor has actually taken a bit of an upgrade lead, plus we will finish faster for him despite everything that has happened in this game. Still no intention, apparently, of actually adding a lurker den. It's a very interesting choice to make. Perhaps Reynor really feeling the mobility, knows that he's been able to find Serral out of position, actually tackle these lurkers, and especially with his own Vipers, he might be able to, but right through the middle, that could have actually gone terrible for Reynor, but Reynor was attacking, so Serral decides to pull back, which means he doesn't get to go for the base race, and he's late to the defense at home.
Oh, the Spores do take out the Overseers. The Lurker dodging the Biles. Nice plays by Serral. He will deflect this attack. And Reynor, though, a very opportunistic dive. You could see Serral. I really thought Serral was going to get Lurkers up in between the rallies and actually do it. But he panicked and pulled home there. And I'm not sure if that was a missed opportunity or not. It's so hard to keep up with where all of the army pieces are, how much was at home for both sides. Yeah. Maybe Serral realized he just had 2 Lurkers at home. He was going to potentially lose that base trade, so he's pulled on back. But look at the numbers at the bottom. Zombie Grub, we've got a 20 supply lead for Reynor. He's got a healthier bank right now. He's been more mobile, and he's abducting.
Well, they both are abducting, and actually only one of them gets all those kills, and it's Serral. He got the kills on the Vipers. He gets the kills on the Overseers, which are actually kind of still expensive, and even supply blocks Reynor at this point, as neither one of them has started to accrue a bank. Serral does have a faster 5th base. Reynor's only just now adding that on. He's finally adding his lurker den as well, but he's not there yet. He wants to keep up the pressure. He's tried to divide his army once again in half, hoping that Serral is really out of position. But I like what Serral has done, especially with his lurkers over to the right side, kind of staggered them so that Reynor might make a mistake and try to dive on one, not realizing there's 3 or 4.
Oh, okay, the lurkers pull back. One of them goes down, so does the second one. He does eat some big spines, though. That is not free.
Ooh, Serral really trying to calm this game down, you know. It was for so long. He had the momentum. He had just straight up the better army, but was unable to really get it in the perfect location to capitalize on it. Now things have calmed down. We're back to perhaps the mechanical part of late game ZVZ. Who is better when it comes to Overseer sieging up, Spore Crawlers being placed, Lurkers actually getting the shots, Blinding Clouds going down, a lot of micro comes in. Reynor actually going to lose that 5th base. Nothing else beyond it, but he really did need it.
I mean, this is so intense at this point because neither of you has a big economy. This is not a big 70 drone game where you've got this big bank you can rebuild off. Both of them have the Vipers they've got out right now and not much behind it. And whoever gets the abducts first and takes out the enemy Vipers is going to be at a huge advantage.
Oh my gosh, Reynor once again just not expecting the drive through the middle. This time his army is at home, which also means that it has been corralled. He doesn't have much to go. Oh, okay.
explosive Biles take out a couple of Vipers and Lurkers, but the army quality is so much better for Serral. He's still got a lot of Vipers. His Lurkers are spread. That base goes down, and he wants to corner this army. He does not want to let Reynor out of this corner. We thought Serral had him trapped earlier in this game. Reynor barely fought his way back into it, but now he's pressed up against the wall with nowhere to run.
That is going to be it. Reynor taps out. Serral finally getting his IEM victory. It took a couple of tries, but he makes it to the finals. He gets tested to Game 7, and he actually comes out the victor.
And deservedly hyped and psyched for that performance. I mean, that was some real adversity there. We saw that just go right back in the other direction, but he managed to put the stop on the Reynor train when it looked like all the momentum was there. That there was an absolutely stellar grand finals, a beautiful performance from Serral.
And now we are going to head to the main stage, guys. We are going to talk to the champ himself. It's Serral.
Thank you very much, Zombie Grub, and congratulations to Serral. Your road to this championship was one of the most difficult we have ever seen. You took down Maru, you took down Rogue, and Dark, and now Reynor, all tournament favorites for this trophy. And now, finally, you are the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice champion.
Feels absolutely incredible. Thanks for all the support, guys. I have to say, after I lost 3 games in a row, I was kind of doubting myself a little bit there. But luckily, I managed to get myself back together and pull it off in the end.
We saw in this ZVZ, it went every single map. So much back and forth action. You started up with 2 wins with a 2-0 lead. And then on Glittering Ashes, I think a lot of people were a little surprised, and I see you smiling there. What was your reaction? Because it felt like you were a little confused as well.
Yeah, well, I was expecting the Mudas there after I saw that many links. But yeah, I was actually kind of like 50-50 between Nidus and Muta myself there. So I chose a bit wrong there, and then I made the Raptors, which was kind of the nail in the coffin, I guess. So yeah, I was a bit confused, but he has played that before, so nothing I have never seen.
And then on that final map, it was getting a lot closer than I think even Reynor even expected. You had the superior army, but Reynor just doing Reynor things, hanging on. Were you worried at all that perhaps he might be able to take it from you?
Yeah, I kind of was, because I didn't get, I felt like I was stuck at 170 supply, but I didn't know I had the lurker count higher than he all the time, and yeah, I mean, I felt like I was winning the whole time, but I did feel like I might be throwing this a little bit, which I was, but luckily not too hard.
Luckily not too hard, because you did pull out the win at the very end, and now you are the world champion. The last time you did so was BlizzCon 2018, 3.5 years ago. To remain at the top of this game, this hard game, StarCraft 2, for 3.5 years, that is absolutely amazing. What can we look forward to for the rest of this year?
More victories and exciting games.
The crowd loves to hear it, and speaking of which, there are so many Serral fans out there. Any last words for them?
Thanks for all the support. It means a lot of people streaming and just in general cheering. Really makes the tournament feel really different and something special.
Give it up one last time for your Intel Extreme Masters champion. It is Serral!
scenes here from the Intel Extreme Masters as Serral has finally shrugged off any repercussions from the previous tournaments,